I think with a black fedora, I could look a little like Diana today. Hi guys, Ray from Whimsical Pictures here, and today I am bringing you the Q&A video that I announced about a week and a half ago. I'd like to thank everyone who asked questions for it, and I'd also like to thank you guys for 300 subscribers. Yay! So I have the questions in front of me, and I don't want this to go on too unbearably long, so let's just get started. From Alexandria Yeardley. What is the most emotionally heavy series you've read? Barefoot Gen is a close second, but I'm gonna have to say Zankoku no Kami ga Shihai Suru by Moto Hagio, or A Savage God Reigns. So, you know, even with the title, it ain't playing. Giannis Sirakis and Tara Lloyd both asked what is my favorite manga series, so I'll give you my top 2. Because I don't really have a top 5, I have a top 2, and then I have a bunch of other favorites. But this top 2 is really unlikely to change. So, my dog is making noises in his sleep, it's really cute. The first one is going to be Fruits Basket, one of the first manga I ever read, and still one of the most important to me. I reread it at least once every year. All the characters mean so much to me. I find new things to love about it every time I read it, and yeah. The other one is the same way. I love all the characters so much, and I reread it at least once every year. And it is the reason for my Year 24 and Moto Hagio obsession, and that is The Heart of Thomas. I wrote my thesis on this book. That's how much I love it. Yeah. Again, it just means so much to me, and it's so beautiful, too. I just love, like, flipping through it and looking at it. Star Nouveau asks a few questions, and I really enjoy reading your comments as a fellow Year 24 groupie. Keep on keeping on. Number 1, if you could have a figure of any Year 24 character, who would it be? Character design-wise, I really like Soldier Blue's design from Tutera by Keiko Takemiya. But, like, real talk, my figures, with the exception of Soniko over here, are my precious children, and I had to get them as figures because I love them so much as characters. So, honestly, the character I need to have a figure of is my precious son, Oscar, from The Heart of Thomas. I love him so much. It'd be such a boring looking figure, but I don't care. I don't care. Number 2, what's your rarest or most expensive collection item relating to a Year 24 artist? The one I paid the most for is Volume 1 of Otherworld Barbara, which I paid cover price for, which is $39.99, so $40 book. The rarest, or like the ones I could sell for the most money right now, would be A Prime and A Drunken Dream and Other Stories, both by Moto Hagio. Just both really out of print and stuff. Tutera's pretty out of print too, but I didn't, like, go hunting for those, so it doesn't feel as rare because I just happened upon them because I got lucky. Another one I kind of had to search for, but also kind of got lucky because 3 of them were at a comic store near me, are the single issues of They Were 11 by Moto Hagio. Not quite as rare as owning this story in book form, which would require you to get 4 shoujo stories, but still pretty rare in their own right. So yeah. And finally, from them, since I am the biggest dweeb for this series, do you like The Rose of Versailles? I love Berubara. Udon Entertainment needs to get on releasing this because I really want it to exist in English. This is the only volume I own right now, and it's kind of beat up, because it is from the 70s. But, yeah. Beru Baro is great. I don't actually consider it to be a Year 24 series. You know, it's kind of up for debate whether Ryoko Ikeda could be considered part of Year 24, but I don't necessarily consider her part of Year 24. But, you know, that's neither here nor there. I hate when people act like only Year 24 were making manga during the 70s, or making great manga during the 70s. And this is certainly a great series, whether part of that particular label or not. Nebulous as it is. hrynn asks, could you do a review of Otherworld Barbara? My phone is telling me I have a prescription to pick up. Yeah, I will definitely be doing a review of Otherworld Barbara as soon as I get my hands on the second half and read it. It should be coming out in August of this year, and I don't know when my copy will come because I'll be in Japan, but I will definitely be doing a review of the series as a whole once I have that. They also ask, I would like to hear more about the JET program. What age range is accepted? Any age range. You have to be up to 2 years out of college. So you have to be graduated from college, and then there's a 2-year window that you can apply to JET. So theoretically you could apply up to 3 times. Yeah. And you can be fresh out of undergrad, grad school, you know, master's program, whatever. You can still do JET. So I know JETs who are like 35. I know JETs who are, you know, 21 like me. So, yeah. What level of language proficiency did you need? None. You don't need any level of language proficiency, but, like, it's bonus if you do. They'll test you on it in your interview stage, but those points that you get off of that Japanese section of the interview are bonus points. So they're extra points on top of what you get from the interview itself. So, but that said, I would definitely, like, your placement is probably going to be rural and not Tokyo. So I would recommend, you know, picking up some Japanese before going. Certainly learning hiragana and katakana and some basic sort of phrases to help you get around, at the very least. You will, if you get accepted, get sent a sort of booklet called Japanese for Jets that'll give you basic, you know, teaching phrases, teach you hiragana and katakana and basic sentence structures. But yeah, definitely don't not learn Japanese if you get into JET, but you don't need it when you're applying. If you want more information about the JET program, I will link the US JET program site below. I don't know what country you're from, but you can get to that country's JET program website from the US one, so yeah. Rick2501 says, you seem to have a great affinity for the Year 24 group. Oh, you noticed. When was it first brought to your attention, and what work did you read from that creator? I don't know when I first heard the words Year 24. I think it was some, like, BS thing saying they were, like, the only female shoujo creators in the 70s, which, not true. Not true at all, but, you know, I was a teenager. And I was trying to read more, like, old classic manga series, and I think I found Andromeda stories at the library, so I read that. Didn't really like that one, but then I gave Tutera a try, and I liked that one a lot more. But the first one that really enamored me was A Drunken Dream and Other Stories by Moto Hagio, which I also got from the library, so that's why I'm able to be such a huge nerd, because I had access to such a great library in high school. But, yeah. Sorry for the construction noises in the background. There is construction going on. Yeah, so it was A Drunken Dream and Other Stories that I think was the first book I read knowing it was from the Y24 Group, and also the first one that I really fell in love with. Black and White AJ2 MSP asks, do you have any romantic manga recommendations? I have the most romantic manga recommendation. That is Fumi Yoshinaga's Not Love, but Delicious Foods Make Me So Happy. But in all seriousness, yeah, I mean, I'm really enjoying Everyone's Getting Married, sort of a typical josei office lady romance. Kase-san and is a Yuri manga that I'm really enjoying right now. I love the main couple. This is a manhwa, but the Royal Palace Goang is great. Great sudsy soap opera wonderfulness. It's basically The Prince and I, but set in Korea. And I like it a lot. So yeah, there's a few. High School Debut. Here, this one, the colorful one, is probably my favorite shoujo rom-com. I really love that one. It's from the writer of My Love Story, so if you like that one, please check out High School Debut. Yeah. Shelf Space Fleeting, hi, asks, what resources and learning guides did you use to learn Japanese? Yeah, so I took 4 years of it in college. So, my advice might not be as helpful for self-taught people as, you know, advice from someone else who was self-taught, because I did, you know, have the great fortune of having a wonderful sensei for those 4 years. But, the textbooks I used were the Yokoso series, the first 2 of those, and this one's okay, but I find the organization of it to be kind of confusing, and the index is really unhelpful, which is like a huge pet peeve of mine, is college textbooks that have like completely useless indexes. The ones that we used that I would really, really recommend would be the Tobira series. I really like these. They have these really useful grammar notes. So they're separated into like boxes for each new grammar structure. So this one's like how to use rashi. This one's like how to use to onaji de and to chikatte. So that's really useful because it just explains to you how to use it. And then there's also another useful thing is these actual newspaper articles that the book sort of prints for you with grammar notes and vocabulary, like this one. It gives you discussion questions and stuff on them, but the way it's set up is like, it gives you this article for reading practice, which is, you know, using the grammar structures you're learning, and some of the vocabulary, but is actually just a normal article. So it's like realistic written Japanese. And then it gives you vocabulary from that article and relating to the article, followed by a dialogue using similar grammar structures, and then grammar notes on all of the new structures that come from that article. So the way that it's set up, I found to be extremely helpful. And I really love this book. I treasure it. I'm so happy to have it, and I would really recommend the Tobira series of textbooks if you're learning Japanese. The other thing I would recommend, not even a recommendation, more like a you have to do this if you're learning Japanese. If you're really, like, wanting to learn how to read Japanese and learn how to, like, do kanji, have something like this. a kanji journal. This particular one, my sensei actually, she makes these and sells them in our university bookstore, but you can make something like this on your own using just a notebook. Here we have an example. Kabe, it means wall. So the way it's set up, it's like you have it here, and there's an index in the front where you can sort of order them so that you can find it easily. You've got everything you need here. You've got the Chinese pronunciation, the Japanese pronunciation, the English meaning, the stroke order, the radical name, which is going to be vital for you if you're looking it up in a dictionary. Common compound words that use that kanji. Stroke number, again, very important if you're looking it up in a dictionary. And example sentences. I recommend making something like this and writing down every single unfamiliar kanji that you've come across. Like every single one. Learning a language is not easy, and you have to do the work if you want to learn it. So, yeah. But that, I recommend getting something like that, a kanji journal. Yeah. Which places in Japan, this is also from Shelf Space Fleeting, which places in Japan are you most excited to visit or revisit? The Seto Inland Sea and just Shikoku in general. That's where I studied. I felt so much at home there. So much more at home than I've ever felt anywhere else, and that's why I'm going back, so can't wait to get there and melt in the summer sun. PrideScythe asks, do you like any manga with abandoned official English translations? Which would you like to see picked up again? Wandering Sun! We need the end of Wandering Sun so much. Please, please. I'm like hoping against hope that, you know, through some miracle, Sweet Blue Flowers does, like, outrageously well for Viz, and they're just immediately like, we have to license Rescue Wandering Sun, and then release the rest of the series that Fantagraphics didn't get to. We need that series in English. And now it's all out of print, and I can't even get the volumes that I've read, which are all of the ones that have been released. Okay. Rachel's Randomness says, I discovered the greatness that is Moto Hagio because of your channel. Rad. And you're welcome. But that does make me really, really happy, so. If you could only save one volume of manga, natural disaster of some kind destroying the house kind of thing, what would it be and why? The Heart of Thomas. Because I can't save the whole of Fruits Basket, and this is the entire series of The Heart of Thomas in one volume. And I love it dearly, and I couldn't bear to part with it. Even this beat-up old copy, like, I want to keep this one because this is the one that was all, like, post-it noted all over it, and, you know, that I wrote so many pages about, so. Yeah, sentimental value and all that. Jess Z asks, with all of the manga you have read over the course of your life, how do you think, from the very first manga and the current ones you may be reading now, have they impacted your life and growth as a person? That's a big question, and I'd probably have to, like, write an essay about it to really give you a good, like, accurate answer. But, I mean, they made me interested in Japan, and they made me interested in taking Japanese, and now I speak Japanese, and I'm moving to Japan, so that's a pretty big impact on my life, I would say. But in terms of, like, me as a person, there's individual series I could point you to that have, like, given me new ideas that I've sort of incorporated into my life. Fruits Basket's a big one, in terms of just, like, emphasizing unconditional love and kindness and giving people the benefit of the doubt because you don't know what their life is like at home. Stuff like that. The Heart of Thomas helped me come out. So there's that. RoofTop asks, what grabs your attention first while buying manga, art, or story? Art. I'm a cover buyer. But usually I do quite a bit of research before I go out and buy a title. But, like, if I'm just at the library and I'm browsing, I'll just, like, grab something based on the art. But usually I know that the art and the story are something that I'm interested in before going into a new series. So it's kind of both at once because I do so much research. Because manga is expensive. Dal C asks, what got you into manga? What do you like about manga and or anime? Well, I ran out of books to read in my middle school library, so I went to the comics section, and the one with art that appealed to me the most was Fruits Basket. So, I mean, it's sort of that shoujo art style with the big expressive eyes and stuff that got me into manga. So I would say I like the art style. Obviously there's not just one manga art style, but, like, there are characteristics that are common to manga that appeal to me personally. Especially shoujo manga. I like the wide breadth of stories and demographics that manga encompasses. I like the focus, especially in shoujo and josei manga, on sort of the interior emotions of the characters and portraying that through the art. And the way that the story is carried entirely through the layout of the images. There aren't, like, you know, captions at the bottom of every box telling you what's going on in the picture, which is something that bothers me about a lot of American comics. And I like to see more manga influence in American indie comics that incorporates that sort of beautiful marriage between image and dialogue that manga accomplishes, that I think is less common in American comics. I have less experience with European comics, so I don't feel qualified to comment on those. But yeah. Yeah. And there's just so many stories. And they're about Japan, which I love, so not gonna pretend that's not part of it. The CLK0, what do you think of manga written by women as opposed to men? What differences do you see? Not many. I think the only one is, female creators tend to be better at writing women as actual people with, like, roles in life apart from, you know, mother, daughter, sister, wife. I think Fullmetal Alchemist is a good example that I go back to. I don't think that series is a feminist masterpiece like a lot of people make it out to be. I think that Hiromu Arakawa seems to have very conservative views about the place of women in society. And a lot of her female characters tend to sort of not have a whole lot of an arc outside of their relationships with men. Riza Hawkeye certainly comes to mind, as well as Winry. But that said, like, her women do tend to occupy a lot of different roles. General, you know, Riza Hawkeye is sort of this vassal character who is typically male. In other stories, you know, her women just, you know, they feel like people. Even if their entire arc revolves around a man, like, they feel like distinct people rather than just metaphors for the main male protagonist's feelings, like in, say, PrideScythe. That's the only real difference I noticed, though. Women can do anything men can do. Chloe Martin asks, if there were only one genre you have to read for the rest of your life, what would it be? My instinct is to go with, like, literary fiction, but I need fun. I do need, like, literary fiction, but I need fun to break it up. So, my actual, like, first instinct to go to with manga was yokai manga. because I really do love Japanese folklore, and I love Shinto philosophy and how it's often incorporated into manga, so I think I would be super sad if yokai manga were to suddenly disappear. So that's my answer. Jade Wave asks, just curious, once you move, will you still be doing hauls and whatnot? If so, will you get Japanese volumes there? Yes. I am planning to get Shimonami Tasugare, and Zankoku na Kamigashi Haisuru in particular. Those are like the first two I'm planning to get. But yeah. I will be very busy and quite poor. So I won't be buying that much manga, I don't think, but I will buy some. So, and I'll do hauls when I do. Krysten P asks, what are you looking forward to most when you go to Japan? Just being there, man. Like I said, it felt so much more like home than anywhere else I've ever lived. So, that's what I gotta go with. It's just being in Japan again. I mean, there are other things. I'm looking forward to the bookstores. I'm looking forward to the green stuff everywhere. I live in Arizona right now. Everything is dead and brown. It's so green on Shikoku. Looking forward to the record stores, because those are still a thing in Japan, and it feels kind of nostalgic as an American to walk into one of those. Looking forward, of course, to seeing the friends that I made when I was there last. But mostly just being in that country again. Perla B asks, which is the most expensive manga that you own? The one that I paid the most for, like I said before, is $39.99, the cover price for Otherworld Barbara Part 1. And I will be paying the same price for the second half. LiZzYg asks, how do you decide what new manga to pick up? I research them. Manga Bookshelf does a manga of the week feature that I read every week. I also keep up with ANN, and they are usually pretty good about announcing new licenses, so I always look into the summary of the new licenses that I see on there, and that's basically it. I just kind of keep an eye on what's coming out, and I make a list from there of what I'm interested in. Red Dragon Anime asks, do you like video games? And if so, what is your favorite? Yeah. I wouldn't call myself a gamer. I'm a filthy casual, especially because my only console is my PC, and my PC is terrible and old. I can't even play Ori and the Blind Forest on it. The highest resolution game I've been able to make my computer run is Life is Strange, so. But, games that I'm not able to play, I watch Let's Plays of a lot. I've been watching a Let's Play of Nier Automata because I'm, dying to play that game, but I can't because it's way too much for my computer to handle. But as for my favorite, I mean, in terms of what I play the most, I guess it'd be Animal Crossing New Leaf. But, I don't know. I really like Pokemon. I really, really loved Pokemon Moon. That really got me back into Pokemon, where I'd been sort of lapsing since Diamond and Pearl, so yeah, I'm feeling that one right now. I'm also feeling Fire Emblem a lot right now. I'm playing Fate's Conquest right now, so really big Fire Emblem fan. But video games aren't a major hobby for me, but I do like them. I think I'm gonna get, what's that one with the cat? Night in the Woods or something? That's one that I want to get that I think my computer can handle, and it looks right up my alley, so that's probably the next game I'm going to be playing. I also like visual novels. The one I played most recently was Backstage Pass. That was good. Bace Jeleren asks, have you ever purchased a manga that you thought was going to be amazing, only to find it underwhelming? Yeah, unfortunately. I got all 9 volumes of Keiko Suenobu's life from the used bookstore. So, I mean, they weren't expensive, but I thought I was gonna love this, and I didn't. It was like a 2-star series for me, so that's unfortunate. I'm gonna be selling these pretty soon. But yeah, I'll probably do a review of this so that I can go more into detail with my thoughts. But, wasn't a favorite. And I thought it would be. Last page. Yves Vermeir asks, what manga would you like to see translated in English? Right now, I'm really feeling Shimanami Tasogare and Kaze Toki no Uta. Those are probably pretty standard choices, but I really, really want them. Those are both like 5-star series in my mind. And I really want them. I'm gonna get them in Japanese, but I want them like in English so that I can throw them at people and make them read it. Ben Mordecai asks, how did you discover Fruits Basket? Like I said, I ran out of books to read in my middle school library, and Fruits Basket Volume 1 happened to be the comic book with the art style that appealed to me the most, and the rest is history. Alexandria Yeardley asks, do you prefer shounen or shoujo manga? What do you think? Not that I mind shonen, but my true love and joy in this universe is shoujo. Lara Moon, hello, asks, is there another country or culture besides Japan that you're very interested in? And what aspect of a foreign culture attracts you the most or draws you in at first? I actually have quite an extensive background in art history, so the art tends to be what draws me in the most. The art and the language and the religion tends to be what draws me in the most, mostly because a lot of my art history research has to do with religious syncretism. So yeah, but I have quite a bit of background in African art history, especially like North Africa, Egypt, so that's a big interest of mine. The Congolese as well have been a big focus, and the Yoruba, so pretty standard. I'm not interesting when it comes to the cultures I'm interested in, I guess. But I'm also really interested in Chinese history, working, like, off and on a webcomic, that is in a fantasy world based in ancient China, Tang Dynasty. So, yeah, China's just been there for so long, man. For so long. How can you not be interested in that country and that culture? Yeah. Neither of those, like, approaches my intense weeby love of Japan, but, that's why I'm not moving to those countries. But yeah, I like learning about other cultures in general, especially, like, through an art history lens. Interesting question from Linkjoker. What would you describe as the core of shoujo manga, like Jump's classic motto of friendship, effort, victory? What phrase do you think would best convey the spirit of the demographic, aside from the perception a lot of fans have of it just being girly romance? Oh, boy. My answer is probably going to take some explaining, but I'm basically going back into, like, the origins of, like, shoujo bunka, girls' culture, in, like, mission schools before the war. Because I think a lot of the stuff that appealed to girls then ended up making its way into shoujo manga, and is still there. I think number one would be a sense of community. That's why shoujo artists still have to do 1/5 columns every chapter just to talk about what's going on in their life. You know, personal correspondence sections and fan letter corners have long been a part of shoujo magazines, as well as sort of get-togethers for magazine subscribers. That used to be a thing. And certainly stuff like, you know, doujinshi and fan fiction, fan art, these things, there's more of a community around them in female fandom than in male fandom. And there's been a lot of research done on that as to why, but no conclusions. But I would say definitely that sense of community is a big part of shoujo manga. And with that, sort of a sense of sameness. Not necessarily equality, but like the idea that we're all the same deep down, you know. One day we'll all have perfect wings, I guess. You know, there's long been a focus on sort of characters with similar faces. There's the fact that, the main couple in the Rose of Versailles are at one point described as Castor and Pollux. That they come to look more and more like each other as the series goes on. You know, major cornerstones like the Heart of Thomas deal a lot with doppelgangers. The idea of two people from completely different walks of life who happen to have the same face. There's, you know, there's something there about, like, finding comfort in the fact that we're not as different as we may initially seem. Which may be why series like Princess Jellyfish, which are more like, no, we should celebrate our differences, we're all totally different, let your freak flag fly, are so, like, refreshing. But I think that there's value to the other side of that as well. You know, the idea that we're not as different as we seem. Is just as valuable as the idea that, you know, diversity is beautiful and should be celebrated and love your differences and all that. And I think that fits right in with the community thing. And with, you know, androgyny and gender play, which I think are also a huge part of shoujo manga and any, like, media for girls. I think it's really interesting to look at, like, how gender segregated boys media is compared to girls media, which tends to focus on androgyny and equality between the sexes and playing with gender. Shoujo manga has a long history of cross-dressing and queerness and just defying gender roles. You know, there's Lady Oscar, there's early BL, there's Princess Knight, going way back. So, yeah, those are probably the things I would say, at least that draw me to shoujo manga, and that I see as sort of appealing things about it, are the sameness, the community, and gender play. From Dynamic Dylan, what manga series would you like to take on a long plane ride? Ideally, I would really like to take something that's in these Japanese Bunko editions because they're so tiny, they're really easy to just slip into a carry-on bag. And I might actually do this because I haven't read these yet, so that might be good for my flight to Japan. But honestly, I don't read that much on flights. I usually just put in my earbuds and fall asleep, so... But that might be something. If I had, like, unlimited space, my ideal plane read would be something long and suspenseful that I can just sort of lose myself in and goes by really fast, but also takes me a long time to read. something like Monster or any other Naoki Urasawa series. I would love to read Monster on a long plane ride. I think that'd be fun. But it's 18 volumes long. It's like, takes up this much shelf space. Harakiri asks, what is the most meaningful series you've ever read in terms of philosophical impact? Well, I am sort of planning to do a video on Fruits Basket and the epistemology of care, so philosophically that's probably the one that has meant the most to me and been the most formative in terms of how I see the world and what I value. Predictably. Old Shaman asks, what got you involved with the manga industry? I'm not involved with the manga industry. I just know a lot because I'm a nerd and I like to do research into, like, my hobbies because I'm that kind of nerd. But I'm not involved with the manga industry as well, or at all. I want to make that perfectly clear. But I started reading ANN like a long time ago. I don't even remember when now, like 9th or 10th grade. And I've been keeping up with anime and manga news ever since. Just because that is my type of nerdiness. But not because I'm involved with the industry at all. Manga Hoarder, hello, asks, which manga character do you think is most like you? It's Yuki. It's Yuki. He means so much to me. You don't even know. There's my boy right there. He, his, like, journey towards becoming a better person and everything literally saved my life in middle school. During sort of my first really big depressive episode. You know, he made me think that life was worth living, and yeah, but I still, like, relate to him a lot. I like sort of rereading the series and seeing gradually, you know, how I start to relate less to him at the beginning of the series and more to him, like, later and later in the series. Tracking my progress, I guess. But, yeah, he means so much to me. Even, like, the dumb things, like, he's really bad at, like, cleaning and waking up in the morning, which are also true of me, so. And then what is my favorite prose novel? I feel like I haven't read enough yet to have a good answer, but the one that came to mind first was A Tale for the Time Being by Ruth Ozeki. This is another one that, you know, is one of those books that I read and I think it made me a better person for having read it. I love Now dearly. I just love this idea of, like, the connections that form between people across space and time. I love all the Buddhist philosophy in this book. Ruth Ozeki is actually a Buddhist monk. Priest? Just kidding. She's a Buddhist priest. And I love how it's read. Or how it's written. And it just, like, it's so good. I want to read it again. But I have so many other things to read. And then finally, we have a question from Bree's Book Reviews. How exactly did you get interested in learning Japanese, and what resources are some of your favorites when it comes to studying? I already gave you some of my resources that I used in college, but I will give you a couple of apps now that you may have heard of if you follow Japan YouTubers at all. But these are Hi Native and Hello Talk. Hi Native is a question asking app where you can ask language questions to native speakers of the language that you're learning, and you can answer their questions about English in return. It's really useful because you know, can easily get answers to your language questions from native speakers of Japanese. The app will translate questions for you into Japanese. Just the interface works really well, and it's just great if you have, like, a quick question that you know, you can't necessarily trust your dictionary to answer in a, like, natural Japanese but actual people speak kind of way. And then Hello Talk is a messaging app that also gives you a feed and a profile page similar to Facebook. You can make status updates in the language that you're learning, and other people can correct those status updates. So a lot of people choose to use the app to write daily diary entries as daily language practice in their target language. And you can also sort of message people, anyone who's using the app, and start a conversation with them so that you can, like, make some friends and pen pals who speak your target language, and you can help each other out with language learning and language exchange. And the thing about Hello Talk that's great is that that particular app is used by a lot of people in East Asian countries. A lot of Chinese, Korean, and Japanese users. So it's very easy to find people to talk to in Japan who are learning English. As far as how did I get interested in learning Japanese, my high school offered it, and I thought that was interesting, so I took it. And then I fell in love with it without meaning to. I was just gonna take the one class for the one credit I needed, and then I ended up taking it all 4 years, and then all 4 years of college. So, oops. Once again, you guys, thank you so much for all of the questions. Sorry this video is so long, but there will be timestamps for all of the questions in the description below, so you can find your own question if that's all you're interested in. Yeah, I hope you learned a little more about me. Sorry the answers are repetitive. I have a couple series that mean extra much to me. So, yeah, thank you again for 300 subscribers. Thank you for all of the support over the past year. It means a lot. And I hope to see you in future videos. Look forward to them. And until then, happy reading. Bye, guys.